What it do? It's your girl Zen with another episode of ClosedWon. This is the final episode with Josh Gillespie. Today we are going to cover his second guiding principle and third guiding principle with a few other tips on disqualifying leads so that you are not wasting time. So, my friends, enjoy. Cool. What is
The second,
the second guiding principle?
we talked about it real briefly, and I'll just touch on it really short, I promise. Just so disqualify, disqualify, disqualify. And obviously that's related to the first principle. It's all about valuing your time. I think we're all quick to jump into calls and try to make the most of the call and try to be optimistic and try to push it forward regardless. But you should really have like a strict set of qualifying circumstances that you adhere to at all times. And if it doesn't, if it doesn't look like you're going to hit all 5 of those points or 4 of those points or 3 of those points at the very least, on to the next one and be okay with that.
Yeah, I've been on so many calls with you, and this is actually the first time I understood that question. Is this an exploratory call or is this an internal initiative where you,
Yeah.
and now I get it.
Because it's so easy to have those conversations where someone takes your call and they hear you and they'll even watch like an hour-long demo, and they might even have like a manager, director, or VP title. They might be genuinely curious, but the company at large and its 15 to 20 decision makers or shareholders or stakeholders, whatever the steering committee, they have really like maybe 5 other high priority items that need all of their involvement and already taking 80 hours of time a week from each individual to accomplish over the next 18 months. How am I going to get a sale across the line in that scenario with one guy saying, yeah, like I'll take a look. So you got to be really comfortable with disqualifying that stuff if there's no initiative already in place.
2 more questions that you ask in order to disqualify, things that our viewers can use.
How long have you been at the company? That's always the interesting one. I honestly want to know what someone's tenure is.
Yeah.
If they've been there less than a year and they're not a VP or a director, they don't have decision making, they're not likely to want to stick their neck out.
Yeah, because sometimes people say I am the decision maker, but really
they're still getting ramped. They're still learning their job. They're still learning their team. They're still navigating, not messing up their current duties, let alone making strong product recommendations.
When someone switches jobs, they do get hired for specific roles. And what do you think about that? Like, let's say a VP of sales just got hired and their role is to,
I still think it's unlikely. I still think it's unlikely if they have decision-making or buying power and they're new. Sure, maybe they want to mix it up and adopt new tools in their new role.
Or old tools that they've used.
So if they've been that's the caveat. If they've been your customer and your happy customer before, definitely be on top of that. Follow them. Make sure you have your notifications on LinkedIn turned on so you can see when they switch jobs, because they'll help you get sales everywhere they go. And I love those people. I love when people switch jobs and get me bought elsewhere. But for the most part, if they haven't been your customer before, even if they're like a VP or higher, they have buying authority, they're not likely to adopt a brand new tool they've never used before at a brand new company and make that recommendation for the first time. Because then again, it's unnecessary risk for them. They're more likely, in fact, to adopt a tool like DocuSign or your status quo legacy tool that's less risk with them doing less work and evaluation to ensure.
That makes sense.
So anyways.
Third guiding principle and why?
So third guiding principle, it's all related. Got to think about stuff, not just who can get a deal bought. So we talked a little bit about like when you're moving up market, and this is still a good principle in SMB, like who, we often ask, I don't know how you guys ask it, but who needs to sign off on this decision to get the deal done? How many people are going to be involved? How many people do I really need to talk to? Is it just you and your CEO? Is it just, do you have autonomy and a credit card? This is only a $5,000 purchase. But conversely, I like to think about who has the power to kill a deal.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's a good one.
That kind of gets me thinking, and I like to ask.
I got burned with that one.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, please, by all means, more.
Well, depending, you want to have a good relationship too before you just come out the gate, because you can, I guess, maybe offend someone or stub their toe a little bit with the question. But I like just to ask, like, hey, we're having a good conversation here. It seems like there might be a good opportunity for us. I would usually ask who's involved in making a decision around this, but conversely, like, who's kind of like a stick in the mud over there typically?
Yeah,
Like
just be
who
straight
typically,
up.
yeah,
Just
like who kills deals over there? Who's like the toughest person to convince? I kind of like to start there, because if I can build that person up quickly or get that checked off, then the other people are typically
gonna take.
fall in line. Whereas they might actually be a little hesitant to do anything or become champions, knowing that this person's like a strong stick in the mud. So you kind of have to get at and dig at those internal dynamics, which are completely unrelated to the product and service we're selling, right?
Wow, that's a good one. Okay, I have one for you because this just recently happened with me. Found someone that was the alpha. It took a while to close the deal, and it finally closed. And then he became hands off and gave it to someone else.
It's tough, yeah.
And then they actually hired someone as an admin, and then all of a sudden pulled the plug mid program or mid POC, and there was no turning back. I mean, I got stuck. I was just, damn, I did so much work for this client, and now there's nothing I can do.
Was there just like a directive from your initial buyer to like basically not talk to him, or do you still attempt to reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. Texts, videos, emails. Alpha just
It's
went like,
I've seen it every which ways, and it's weird. Like, I'll tell you, we had one client who was my biggest deal like 3 years ago, and it was like a huge deal for us at the time. I think they bought like over 100, user licenses of PandaDoc, and it was a 2-year contract and like a nice, juicy 5-figure deal for us. And that was when we were still mostly working like SMB. We we assumed like this is our biggest deal ever, so we like we went all out on trying to provide resources, our outreach every week. They like never returned calls for like or emails. They just bought it, and they were like kind of an older legacy company
yep.
that maybe hadn't implemented software
Same. This one
before.
was a legacy company as well.
And so I think they were sold on the value of the idea and the product, and they wanted it, but it's not something you can just like press a button and have work, right? It has to be implemented. They need subject matter experts on their side. They need change management
Education.
on
Yep.
their side, continual education on their side. Um, and so it's tough if they've never done this before. You really have to hold their hand. And we did everything we could, but the short of the story is, they churned after their 2-year contract because they never even onboarded the product.
Wow.
Well, guess what? And we just took the money, honestly, like, even though it sucks to have a big churn, like they never used our services or our products. So we just took it as like a large donation kind of in a way.
Yeah.
But funny thing, I fast forward to like about 18 months later, a few months ago, their initial project champion hits me up out of nowhere and says, "Hey, Josh, like, just wanted to follow up with you guys and apologize. Like, we never even tried to use your software, which really sucked. But there was this stick in the mud, and she got fired. And I just want to let you know she's the reason why we never onboarded PandaDoc, because she basically was the one that was told by our CEO to manage the project, but she always said she was too busy, blah, 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 blah. And then she was like, so anyway, she's gone and I got promoted to her job. So anyways, I want to buy PandaDoc again. Can you cut me kind of a deal? Cause like we never onboarded it before. But what's funny is like after 2 years of them buying PandaDoc, never even attempting to utilize it, churning, waiting another year, then they came back and we just signed another huge 2-year contract with them. So all you can do is what you can do.
Yeah.
And oftentimes those guys will come back, and it's usually for reasons completely unrelated that you cannot control. And I just think those instances are kind of funny because, yeah, we still see that unfortunately all the time, where maybe businesses make sophisticated decisions but don't have sophistication behind the implementation side.
Yeah. It reminds me of a lesson I learned back at Yelp. closed loss is not really a closed loss. It's a timing thing. Sometimes there are things out of your control, and people do get fired, people get hired, and
Yeah.
that will completely change the game. And
Yeah. I mean,
so,
yeah, and it depends on what you're selling, of course. But like for software and
yeah,
subscription-based services, like having sold PandaDoc for 5 years, I certainly know nothing is ever close lost. And in fact, anytime it's like close lost in CRM, there's a reminder notification for me to basically reach out in 9 months and assume that they went with some other application. And knowing my market like the back of my hand, regardless of what they chose, I can basically beat it up with my outreach 9 months from now and say, hey, we still exist. We've grown. We've done this. We've done that. I remember specifically what we spoke about. How's that service going with that other guy? Yeah. Are they super responsive? So, um, and we win a lot of deals that way just by going back a year later.
yeah.
So stick with it. Yeah. Year to year, grow your book of business. As long as you don't lose them, they'll come back to you. And yeah, that's how you just keep it growing.
Dope. So much good stuff. All right, cool. So we went through the 3 guiding principles and a few other tips. And Josh, can you summarize the 3 guiding principles?
All right, summarize. So we'll do quick. What we say, value your time by knowing the actual value of your time down to your second. The way you do that is you divide your annual quota by how many working seconds there are in a year. I think there's about 7,488,000 to be exact. So go ahead, do the math. Tell your mom when you're on your call with her that my time's worth 10 seconds. 10 cents a second, mom.
That's awesome.
Second principle, start thinking about your leads. Start thinking about disqualifying them versus qualifying them. It's a very important, I think, mentality to have, regardless of your cohort or segment. And then the third, of course, start thinking about how many people can kill a deal at your prospect versus how many people it takes to buy. I think that'll be a faster way of kind of finding your potential sticks in the mud.
Yes, and that is it for us. Don't forget to subscribe and comment below. It's your girl and it's your boy, Josh. We're out. Peace.
Love you. Thanks, man.